Greetings from Seychelles. My name is Angelique Pouponneau. I'm from the Seychelles, but currently working for the government of Antigua and Barbuda in their capacity as the chair of the Alliance of Small Island States. So today, and thank you very much for inviting me to come and speak to the community. My fiance is Guyanese, so I consider myself a Caribbean citizen as well. So I'm really glad to be amongst family. So let me just kick off. I'm going to have a presentation, but it's more just for the photos more than anything else. So I'll just pull that up. Thank you. Give me a moment. Alrighty, so I'm guessing you're all here because you really care about the ocean. And you know there are so many challenges facing our ocean nowadays. And oftentimes this challenge is coming from many sources. And one of the things that I'm very focused on is, of course, when it comes to how climate change is affecting the ocean. We also know that there is marine pollution, amongst other anthropogenic activities. Before that, we thought the ocean was pretty much a dumping ground, right? We could make things go away when we dumped it into the ocean. But we now know that that wasn't right. But still, the ocean continues to suffer. We've know with the changing climate, there's been warming of ocean, acidification of seawater, which in turns, of course, leads to the dissolution of many of our coral reefs and other critical ecosystems. And as you know, many of us, small island developing states, were very much reliant on our key ecosystems like by coral reefs, like other biodiversity that are critical to our economies, livelihoods, well-being, health, mental health, and well-being. I say mental health because every time I live away from home, there's one thing I definitely miss, and that's sea breeze. I really miss the breeze of the ocean hitting my face, and it's something that not a lot of people understand. But I think when you come from the ocean, it's those things that you often take for granted that you really connect with. But with all these impacts on our ocean, it's also likely that that in turn affects how economies fare, how food security is maintained within our countries. But the ocean is not only a place where it's being affected, it's also a solution, right? It's also the fact that it offers optimism of how to address issues of climate change. So within the ocean, we have all these amazing ecosystems like seagrass meadows, and then, you know, our straddler, the mangroves, a bit on land, bit on sea, that are able to absorb carbon dioxide, as well as perform other services for us like fishery nurseries, food for biodiversity, amongst other things. When it comes to our coral reefs, they're our first protectors. When it comes to sea level rise, many of our islands are, of course, affected by the rising seas. And the ocean, we're so well connected with it because most of our islands were dependent on them as the basis for our economies, as well as maintaining food security within the country. So I think we all know why we love the ocean, right? We all know why we're here. We all know why we're connected from it. Some of us connected with it early on, some of us a little bit later on in life. But either way, our affinity with the ocean is always very obvious when it comes to people from small islands. And these are just a few photos, but only to say that, of course, we're the custodians. And when we're the custodians, it pains us to know that it's quite possible that there will come a time that the ocean that we know, the ocean that we see today, and it's rapidly degrading, will no longer be there. And that is in terms of the health of the ecosystems that live there, in terms of the services that they're going to be able to provide us. So as ocean people, obviously, we're always very, very concerned. But here we are, 2022, and these are the people making decisions, right? So I've used the cabinet in Seychelles, and I've used the negotiating rooms of the UN, where decisions are being made. And oftentimes, what is obviously very clear is the decisions are being made without us. And of course, I thought it was very smart, this slide, by the way, only because I started with decisions are being made with these folks, and then I had these young people have to carry the trash out. But essentially, those are who will automatically, we are those who will automatically have to inherit the decisions that are currently being made. And we're not at the decision-making table. Many of us are not at the decision-making table, and we're just left to be informed quite late in the day that these are the decisions that we will have to now implement or simply live with. So these are things that I want us to think about. The fact that we need to be at the decision-making table, and how are we going to be able to do that? As young people, we have a voice. We have strength in numbers, strength in unity. In fact, when it comes to young people in small island developing states, we have a lot in common. We're often seen as, these small, minute sections of society or sections of the world. But in fact, we're very powerful when we come together and think about how we advocate about the not only inclusion and participation, but meaningful inclusion and participation in these decision-making processes. I recall when I was 23 or so, returning to the Seychelles, having finished my studies, and you became, with the work that I had been doing with the local NGO, you became the face that they got really uncomfortable about seeing every time they had a meeting and there were no young people in the room, because they knew that you would call them out. And this is exactly the type of advocacy that we need to continue to do, to make sure that young people are in the room, and they're able to participate. Now, when it comes to being able to participate, there's many considerations here, really thinking about how we are building our own capacity and working together to build our capacities, to be able to effectively participate. Within the climate change process, there are numerous training sessions where young people can participate so that we can also be effective at the decision-making table. We should not only be seen as, the faces that are reminders that these solutions need to be long-term. We're not just faces. We have brains, we have energy, we have thoughts and meaningful contributions that can be made to these processes. And we must take the opportunity to bring them to the table. Otherwise, we're just going to get stuck with the decisions that people are making without considering our views and thoughts. But here I'm speaking from New York, so it's always me thinking at this point in time about what we can do when it comes to bringing young people within, participating within international fora or attending national events and contributing to planning committees. But in reality, young people can influence change and bring around action from any level. And very importantly, and I'd say most importantly, is mobilizing and taking action at the grassroots level. And we're here really thinking about what kind of activities and change that can be brought about at grassroots level. I like to always use the example of an initiative in the Seychelles where young people, a youth-led NGO, started a Seychelles Free from Plastic Bags campaign. And within 6 months, the government of Seychelles announced that they would start the ban on single-use plastic bags in a phased approach. What made that happen? And it was a group of young people mobilizing, organizing, but also, first of all, taking action, right? So in a span of 12 months, there were 12 beach cleanups. It was one of those things where we were basically saying, if you're not going to do anything about it, we will. Secondly, also the idea of we weren't sitting around as young people simply complaining. We were about bringing solutions. So we partnered with several different actors to actually make alternative single-use bags available. I mean, it's not single-use bags. We actually make an alternative to single-use bags available. And you can see a couple of photos on the side there where we partnered with the Seychelles prison, where female inmates were sewing reusable bags for the local communities. But what was really interesting is we made it a political issue. Elections were coming up, and all of a sudden, because this was a big campaign being driven by young people, all of a sudden, politicians started to care, or seemingly cared, by the fact that they needed our votes. So environmental issues started becoming political issues. You know, you had commitments by governments saying, if you vote for us, we will do the ban. And those are things that we cannot underestimate. We have power as youth, we have power as voters, and we have power as consumers. And we must continue to exercise that power. Don't underestimate it. And of course, it's most powerful when we come together. Other just general ideas, and I mean, I'm sure many of you are here because you're already passionate about the ocean. But you don't, I'm a lawyer, right? You don't always need to be a marine biologist to be passionate about the ocean. You can use whatever field, whatever career, whatever profession that you're in to also be supporting ocean action. And that to me is sort of your good that you can do regardless if, for example, like myself, you know, you selling your soul slowly as being as a lawyer, but now, of course, being able to also positively contribute in other ways. I joke, of course, not all lawyers sell their souls. But these are initiatives that I'd like to encourage where, you know, in Seychelles, we had an initiative where there were blue economy internship programs, and we saw how young people were having the capacity built in different sectors, but also then moving on to actually take up careers and university degrees in those sectors. So we're really building our ocean human capital, if you like, so that we're all together moving towards a concerted effort. And again, as I say, you don't have to be a marine biologist. You know, you can choose something completely different and still support that movement. So really, I'm going to stop here. But with that, just I hope an advice for all young people in the Caribbean and beyond to think about what you can do. Think about how we organize, how we become more organized, how we work together, and let's make a plan. Right? I think we need to stop moving in very ad hoc ways. I think after this workshop, let's move away from, you know, waiting for the next workshop and Khadija to coming up with the great ideas and having the next workshop, right? Let's have a plan. Let's see how we're going to be working together. Let's see who's doing what in which country. There's already best practices, right? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. So there's already some amazing work. I know some of you are also part of different environment youth networks taking place in the Caribbean. We know there's some best practices already in place. We just need to see how we can replicate them. How can we scale them up? And have them bring about regional change to begin with. So that's what I would say. Let's be more organized. Let's make a plan and then work towards implementation. Now, I say all of this knowing that financial resources are always, to an extent, some constraints. But let's also think about how we work through that, because right now there is a huge pull for how do we get SIDS into the UN Ocean Decade for Sustainable Development. We need to identify our opportunities, we need to be strategic, and we need to make sure that I cannot go to another meeting where they say to me, and I know this cannot be true because there's 47 of you here in the room, they can find a young SIDS professional to participate in something. I think that's madness. So let's make sure that we're being strategic. We're taking up all the opportunities that we can, and also creating our own. So that would be my final advice. After this workshop, Khadija, I don't know if I've added like a section to your program, but let's make a plan. Let's be concerted, let's be coordinated. And I think there's an exciting future ahead of us if more of us are in the decision-making rooms. And God knows I'm waiting for when young people are leading the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angelique. And like you said, I'm going to hold you to your words when you said that you want to reach out afterwards and let's make a plan, because you're absolutely right. We really need to. And I myself am so sick and tired and fed up of hearing that there aren't representation from the Caribbean, or they couldn't find people or representatives from SIDS. And it's very much annoying because, like you said, look at how much of us in this room right now. And yeah, power in the youth, power as voters, power as consumers, everything that you said absolutely resonated. And I'm seeing a lot of agreed and clapping hands in the chat. So you definitely, your speech was received by the youth. So thank you very much. And I did not introduce you properly, so let me apologize. So Angelique is the Deputy Fellowship Director and Policy Advisor at the Alliance of Small Island States. So that is why she was very passionate about speaking on SIDS. And like I said, she's from Seychelles and she's been in the field. So she has a lot of experience and is talking from her heart and stuff that has happened that she has seen and everything. So thank you so much, Angelique. I really appreciate it. And on to the next. Next, we have Brandon Levy, the Chief Program Officer at Sustainable Ocean Alliance. And honestly, we are all here today because of Brandon. I learned about SOA from Brandon and joined the organization. And now here we are receiving a grant. SOA Caribbean is putting on this workshop. So Brandon, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Khadija. And Angelique, that was wonderful and informative. So way to set the tone. And it's incredible to see so many human beings on one Zoom meeting, and not just any sort of human being, someone who's cares enough about the ocean to join this course, which is going to be quite an undertaking. And I think it's going to be just a wonderful transformative experience for each and every one of you. It's an honor to be with you all today. And as Khadija mentioned, her and I met. Hold on, I hear a slight echo. Maybe mute Angelique, is that possible? Cool, thanks. Yeah, so Khadija and I met a few years back on a voyage on the Peace Boat ship, which is a Japanese cruise ship that sails around the world, that has a partnership with the United Nations. And Khadija was a member of the Ocean and Climate Youth Ambassadors. And I was a mentor for that group. And it was a wonderful way to initially get to know you. And we've kept up in conferences in Oslo and Norway for the Our Ocean Youth Leadership Summit, and continue now to work together a bit more formally, as Khadija is the regional representative for SOA for all of the Caribbean. So it's been an incredible journey to have known you, Khadija, and to see what you're cooking up. So really my intent here today with you all is to introduce you to the SOA ecosystem. And now that you are taking this course, you are officially part of this community of young leaders worldwide working on incredible ocean projects. You'll hear from one of our star young leaders, Mark Haver, in a little bit, who used to chair our Youth Policy Advisory Council and now is also a regional representative for North America and handles a lot of our policy work. So I'll let Mark go into more of the nitty-gritty on that and whatever else is on his agenda to speak about today. And I'll provide a bit more of a zoomed out overview of SOA, what we do, some projects that you may be interested in that may inspire you on your own journey, and talk a little bit more about leadership from a holistic sense. So I'll share my screen as well. You can allow me to do that, Khadija, that'd be awesome.
me. I was responding to you. I think I need to make you a co-host so that you'll be able
Perfect.
to do that. Let's see. Let me find you. Here we go.
And Khadija, just for time's sake, what around what time should I keep my remarks to? About 10 minutes or less?
I would say between 5 and 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. So if that is the case, I will run through this pretty quickly. Hold on. Let's see if I can share my screen here. Odd. I'm not seeing that it's working here.
You still can't.
Oh, okay. No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Wonderful. All right. So here we go. So Sustainable Ocean Alliance, at this point, you probably have some reference point to who we are and what we do. But in case you haven't researched the website too intently, allow me to provide you a little bit more of a formal introduction. As Angelique so eloquently put, our ocean is in a state of decline from just about every facet of it at this point. And it's absolutely imperative that the ocean receives more of the attention of not just us as a global citizenry, but also from our policy leaders and those who are currently making decisions on our behalf. So SOA was originally founded with the intention of bringing young people to forums in which they can have their voices heard, in which their opinions around what the future of policy should look like, around what innovations are needed, are actually implemented by those that are in power, and also for us to pave our own way to have those seats of power and to use that power as a way to ensure that voices are heard from all over the world. And what we do primarily in order to have this inclusive youth voice on the national and the global agenda is we have two programs specifically. One is the Ocean Leadership Program, which is where Khadija and I and Mark are primarily operating in. And we support young people now all over the world with different resources, mentors, courses just such as Thinking Beyond Tides, and grants in the form of direct financial assistance. And I'll talk a little bit about some of those projects. We also have a accelerator program, which is for startups and entrepreneurs, those that are using the profit incentive and profit motive as means to build solutions for the ocean. And these are the 6 different areas of ocean impact that we are targeting in how we work. And here is a bit about our resources that we provide. We have a network of 200 mentors that support our startups and our young leaders. And we're constantly partnering with other organizations, specifically grassroots organizations, to really be the Sustainable Ocean Alliance, right? As the infrastructure, the framework that holds together all these disparate efforts. Maybe they're hyper-local, maybe they're regional, but we are designed to be this unifying force for all ocean action worldwide. And over the last 4 years, you'll see Mark in the middle here, we've been able to support 45 different startups who've received over $200 million in funding for their projects. We've created a movement, which you are now all a part of and active leaders within, which spans 165 countries. And within these countries, we have what we call hubs, which are ways in which we organize as youth. So if you and 4 other people wanted to start your own hub, you would essentially be creating a Sustainable Ocean Alliance in the place where you lived. We have hubs that are associated with universities, with nations, with regions. And the point of this is to collaborate with other community stakeholders to raise awareness about the ocean and to drive action. That's a bit more about the accelerator. I'd be happy to share all this with you all later, but a few examples of projects here. We supported a company that grows coral that is actually heat resistant. So super important with ocean warming, especially in the Caribbean, where we're losing a lot of our coral reefs. So this would be a way to potentially use land-based farming and coral transplants for heat resistant corals as a potential solution. We've supported a company called Flywire, which is, they fashion themselves as the Fitbit for the ocean. So all different statistics about what fish are being caught and if that fish and that catch is sustainable or not. Lollyware, a company that makes straws out of seaweed instead of plastic, and beyond. So I mentioned our leadership program. We support young people with grants, with mentorship, with different trainings such as this. And here's a bit about where these hubs are located that I was describing earlier. Khadija is actively working to build out our presence in the Caribbean. So hopefully we'll see more dots in the Gulf area soon. And also just growing the base in which we already have hubs. So less emphasis on expanding to more places, but right now we're really trying to help the hubs that we have be successful in driving action on the ground and really carrying forth this mission in their respective territories. So the way our community works, we have our global community, which we consider sort of our headquarters. I would consider myself part of the global team in coordinating the different regions. We have our regional communities. So both Mark, who you'll hear from shortly, and Khadija lead regional communities and our regional representatives. And they are supporting these portfolios of hubs within their respective areas. They're putting on trainings, sometimes in their own languages, and really supporting with local level of programming. The hubs are a subset of that, and then the leaders are a part of these communities on all these different scales of organization. And young leaders, as we define them, are people under 35 years of age. Typically, we work with people in the range of anywhere from 18 to 35, with an average being around 26 or 27, but there's really no rhyme or reason around when it's more appropriate or not. It's, if the ocean is calling you, we are here to support you. And our young leaders really take the approach to solving these problems holistically. So there's a lot of information about what the problems are, what we're trying to do, and what a lot of our young leaders and our community members are drawn to, are what are the actual solutions to those problems. Like and how do we use the technology we have, the ingenuity we have in our brains, our inherent creativity, our capacity to organize others to address these challenges in a way maybe that our parents or grandparents couldn't. So it's tremendously powerful. And we're taking a slightly different view on what a leader means. One of our mantras here is within the leadership program is doing inner work, and how that translates to outer impact. So not just working on a project, which is super important because that's where you land your leadership in something that's actionable, tangible, that can change the environment, but also how are you looking at yourself in the mirror? What are the elements within you that you're working on? For me personally, I've been looking, like when I look at my own inner world and how I'm trying to transform, there's been a few themes in my recent life. One is to be less identified as an inner critic or as the judger. You know, I've had many issues in my life, just speaking transparently, of being very judgmental towards myself. And that's actually held me back in terms of my own capacity to lead and to do projects, to organize these incredible initiatives that a lot of you are working on already. So what we try to do in the leadership program is take this holistic lens in what are the enabling conditions for you internally that's going to translate to the best possible work product externally. Maybe for you, it's about, you know, burning out or managing your energy better. Maybe it's about relationships with your siblings or with your parents. It's all part of this bigger picture, right? Where the inner leads to the outer. So by being a part of this leadership program and the Sustainable Ocean Alliance, know that we see you, value you as a whole person going through your own transformative journey. And we try to provide as much resources to facilitate both that inner and outer work. Here's just a few case studies of what some of our hubs are doing. For the sake of time, I won't go into these too much. We have a hub in the Pacific Islands. And we also have a microgrant program. So this has become a critical aspect of our program, more on this external side of impact. So over the last few years, we've been able to award over $400,000 of capital to projects, 177 projects in 65 countries, a lot of them in small island developing states, actually. Whether it's something like Khadijah's putting on right now, which we're not directly funding, but we would fund something like that, or an initiative around mangrove planting, or organizing your community to have a hackathon to solve plastic issues, or whatever it is. We supported an initiative out in Indonesia called Carbon Ethics, and they've created essentially a marketplace for blue carbon offsets. So if someone can go on there who wants to reduce their carbon footprint and directly support a mangrove planting or a seagrass planting or coral transport through their website, through their marketplace. We've supported an actual mangrove planting out in Kenya that's been winning all sorts of awards, called Makoko Pamoja. And we've also been supportive of Khadijah's own microgrant project, which was around an awesome podcast, which I was lucky enough to be a guest of, called People Taking Action. So there are lots of ways to get involved in SOA, and we are here to support you in your journey. I think it's absolutely admirable that you all are here. I mean, you could be doing anything right now. You could be playing Fortnite, watching Netflix, eating food elsewhere, out with your friends, but you're choosing to be here because you feel called to something bigger than yourself. And you're taking responsibility in a way that many people in our generation, many people in other generations just choose to ignore or not to do anything about. So the fact that you're here, I want to, again, applaud you. And I am personally here for you if you want to advance in your leadership journey. And please see SOA, Sustainable Ocean Alliance, as this supportive ecosystem for you going forward in your ocean journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brandon. And as always, that focusing on the inner to be a better leader and whatnot is what really resonated with me as something that SOA was doing, and which is why I feel like I am where I am today, because Lord knows I had many inner battles going on, and being a leader, you know, or being like an ocean and climate advocate, it gets very overwhelming, and having a community that you could go to that really understands that level of burnout that you're facing, that is also trying to make a change and whatnot, and then having, you know, the support that you get, because like they said, it's not just financial support. You have mentors, you have partnerships, and so much more. Like, they're really an organization that I absolutely love, and I'm so glad I took that chance to, you know, I always say I had the biggest level of imposter syndrome ever, and I did not want to apply for the Our Ocean conference in Norway that SOA was hosting, the youth one, and then I decided, you know what, let me just go for it, and here we are today. So that just goes to show, you know, anything is literally possible, and I am very much grateful for yourself for, you know, pushing me to apply, and as well as for being here and for working on really building holistic leaders, not just in the Caribbean but around the world. So thank you. Yeah, so moving on, we have Mark, one of the most charismatic people you would ever meet in your life. I love him dearly. And he is the regional rep for North America, and he's gonna share some words with you guys. So Mark, take it away.
Thank you so much, Khadijah. It is so great to be here. My name is Mark Haver, and I work with Sustainable Ocean Alliance as our regional representative for North America. I also do some global policy advising for SOA, and I was the inaugural chair of our Youth Policy Advisory Council. First of all, I just wanted to say that I feel so inspired to be part of this inaugural series with Khadijah, and to see how this incredible network of young people has come together to learn more about what we can do to take action together. And so I'm so glad to be a part of that experience with you all here today. One thing about me that really makes me passionate about the ocean and climate movement is not just my 5 years of involvement with Sustainable Ocean Alliance, but it is because of my personal story and how the ocean and climate has affected me. Look, as a young ocean and climate advocate, there's no need for me to be able to tell you all about how special the ocean is. You all are from or currently live in incredible island communities where the impacts that our oceans are in our everyday lives. For me, I grew up in Central Maryland in the United States. Where is that? That's about 45 minutes north of Washington, D.C. This is a place I was born and raised, and we always had a beautiful downtown area that enabled us to really be part of this community where I learned so much more about where my town came from. And I have so many memories there with neighbors and with my family. However, the weekend before I left to go to college, I was there with my mom. I think it was the summer of Pokemon Go. Everyone remembers how everyone was out in the streets and, you know, working together to try and catch a Pikachu or whatever else. It started to rain. My mom and I went back home. And within 2 hours, now we were getting calls from relatives all over the country asking if we were still alive. Within a matter of an hour and a half, historic rainfall just destroyed the downtown area where we were just a couple hours previous. They called it a 1,000-year flood that caused millions of dollars of damage to my community. And as a matter of fact, 2 members of our community died that day. While it was called a 1,000 years flood, no one could have anticipated it happening 2 years later in the summer of 2018. This is not a coincidence. Our climate is changing and the impacts of it are very much here and now. And that is very much part of my personal story that keeps me tethered to the justice that I would like to seek in terms of how we're able to combat this environmental degradation that has been passed down to us as a generation. I'm very fortunate that I'm able to take that inspiration and work with Sustainable Ocean Alliance to empower others to be able to be the change we wish to see in this world. In January, I started working as a regional representative for a community in North America, and I'm so excited to continue to working with Khadija on building this network for a Sustainable Ocean Alliance across the world. I know that there's so much more that needs to be done, not just for us to build this vision of a healthy ocean, not just in building a vision of a more just future, but specifically in the climate space, the ocean is underrepresented. The ocean is our planet's main climate regulator, yet too often and oftentimes in policy spaces, the ocean and its solutions that it offers are ignored or under-leveraged. Especially with you all, a community that is shaped by your relationship with the ocean, we are given new opportunities to be able to take this relationship and really show the world what happens when we're able to bring humans and nature together as one. This is part of the vision that we launched when we created the Youth Policy Advisory Council at Sustainable Ocean Alliance. Between 2020 and 2021, we had about 15 young ocean leaders from around the world who were recognized for the action they have led in their communities for the environment. And we were able to come together on 2 policy campaigns. The first of which is for the Global Blue New Deal, which is our youth-led, stakeholder-driven ocean and climate policy framework. And the other is for a moratorium on deep seabed mining. We just now have launched our second cohort of Youth Policy Advisory Council in 2022, which is composed of 21 environmental leaders from 20 different countries. And we're incredibly excited to watch them lead our campaigns this year and be able to effectuate change, especially in the context of this being the ocean super year. But what does it really mean for us to be a young ocean and climate advocate, and why is now such a good time? I think there's something so special about you, about all of us here today. It's about our generation. And truly, our generation is the moment. What does that mean? Well, I think our generation is really the moment between 2 moments. There's a moment of the past where we have seen previous generations disregard our connection to nature, our connection to the ocean specifically, where we've created this cycle of decline where each generation is inheriting an increasingly degraded environment. We recognize the ways in which our actions have had consequences. Consequences not just for us on a local scale, but changes on a global scale. You know, I feel privileged that I was able to leave downtown Ellicott City that day with my life and experience a little bit of basement flooding, but for me, life went back to normal. There are others who do not have the same privileges that enable them to get up and leave. And regardless of privilege, the impacts of climate change will affect us all. Whether you're in a very small coastal village without very many resources to help you rebuild or prepare for a hurricane, or whether you're in a rich area of California, a wildfire, a natural disaster, the impacts of climate change are pervasive. And they are something that truly unite us in understanding the environmental degradation that we all see and will or have experienced. That's the moment of the past. But what is the moment of the future for us? We as youth, once again, are the greatest stakeholders in the state of the environment. We are not just guided by understanding what is the future that we need to secure our own prosperity, but we should really be guided by what our generation wants. We can be the generation to reform our relationship with nature, and we should take that opportunity to really use this as a precipice for building a movement, one could say. We all feel so passionate about this type of issue. And when we come together and band our skills, our experiences, our networks together, we understand that this is not just a movement based on what are the impacts of climate change, how can we prepare for it, what's going on with the science, what's going on ecologically. This is a paradigmatic shift for how we as humankind are viewing our role in the world. We are one part of a biosphere. And even though we like to think of this as the world of humankind, we can really take a step back as a generation and recognize what is our role in this larger system and how can we reform our existing systems and processes to be in line with one that is sustainable, but not just one that is sustainable, one that is restorative and one that is regenerative. We have the opportunity to look at expansive capitalist models that are unlimited in their scale and growth and really identify, is this the future that we want? Is this a future that we can have? And I think the beautiful thing about all of us coming here today is that we all understand more of that common goal and how we can link together to be able to create the action that each of us needs. That is the moment of the future, and that is a future that we can curate. It is so important for us now to care about the ocean because we'll see how climate change will continue to ramp up its effects over the coming years. But especially in the context of this workshop with Sustainable Ocean Alliance, there's really one key term that we need to pay attention to there, and that is the alliance aspect. While we, of course, are focusing on Sustainable Development Goal 14, life below water, we also really need to emphasize Sustainable Development Goal 17, which is on global partnerships. When we are able to come together and build this alliance, build this movement for environmental and social justice, we don't need to just look at the science. We don't need to just be guided by truth, which is the science, but we can really be inclusive and incorporative of the different parts of our movement that are able to really expand our reach. So whether you are a researcher, a scientist, whether you're a policy advocate, or whether you're an artist, or you like to make music, or you simply just like to go and talk to people in your community, or you're an educator, or you are a fisherman, whatever you are, we all have a stake in this movement and in this moment together. I'm so glad that we are able to join to really be able to create this change that we wish to see for a healthy planet, a healthy ocean, and a more just future for us and our generation, but also for those to come. So one thing I want to leave you all with today is this plan of action that Angelique started off this workshop, and I really hope that we can come together with that. But there's also something that's so important for you all to know from our practices at Sustainable Ocean Alliance, There's so much to celebrate, and we definitely need to come together to be able to celebrate that even in a virtual setting. So I wanted to show you guys 2 really cool ways that you can help activate others and really celebrate each other by, I guess, imitating the ocean. So if everyone can raise their hands with me on the screen, I'm going to teach you guys how to do a little kelp wave. So whenever we get excited about new momentum within a project, we just wave our arms side to side like a kelp wave. And whenever there's something to celebrate with one of our teammates, we'll put our fingers at the bottom of the screen and do seagrass fingers. So keep up that enthusiasm, keep up this momentum that all of us are building. We as youth are strong, but we are so much stronger together. And I really look forward to seeing the outcomes of this workshop. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Mark. Love that and stuff. That was so great. And you know, your experience with your flood and whatnot in your community, that is something that each and every one of us here in the Caribbean could definitely relate to on some level, if not on a personal level. We all have a friend or a family member that has experienced either intense flooding from storm or hurricane, etc. And like you said, climate change is very much real and happening. And it's about all of us coming together to work, forming an alliance and making a difference. So thank you guys so very much. I believe Angelique has hopped off the call. She had to go. So I think we could break now for a session, for a quick pause so that you guys could stretch a little bit, get some water, tea, coffee, maybe something to eat. I'm sitting on here listening and I'm hearing my belly rumbling. So I might just grab some biscuits before I pass out and stuff. I was too nervous to eat, but everything has been going so great thus far. So I think like now I could probably eat an Oreo and survive, right? So yeah, there will be more from the SOA team later on in the session. I know some of you guys might have questions. It will not be Brandon presenting, it will be Emily, an absolutely amazing person from SOA, and you could ask her, you will have the opportunity to ask her about the micro grants, the accelerator program, and all the other opportunities at SOA, so don't worry about it. So thank you so much, Brandon and Mark, for sharing your words with the youth present and myself, as always. And yeah, I will keep you guys updated on how the workshop is going. So we will pause right now for a quick, what time it is, 1:53. So we'll be back here at 2 o'clock. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, so like I said, feel free to grab some water, juice, stretch, something a little bit. And I'll play some music in the meantime and we'll start back at 2. Yeah, 2 o'clock. Okay. Okay, so it's 2 o'clock on the dot. I feel like I should give people 1 minute to be back just in case. Or is everyone here and ready to go? You could probably just put like you see the type of reaction, the thumbs up reaction if everybody is here and ready to go.
I haven't finished eating as yet. I just start eating.
That's okay, you could continue eating. I just ate a banana real quick. But
Bruh.
you can turn off your camera and continue eating, it's fine. Okay, so I'm seeing several thumbs up, so I guess I'll start back, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed the speeches from the first hour, Brandon and Mark and Angelique. I know I enjoyed it, so I hope you guys did. So for this next hour, I will be presenting the breakdown of the program, and you all will be able to ask me any questions about the program, as well as we would have some icebreakers and get to know you guys, and you guys get to know us. So let's jump straight into that. Let me share my screen. So are you seeing see my screen, right? Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Right. So let me move this over here. Present. Okay, so thinking beyond the tides, like I would have mentioned before, workshop funded by UNESCO as part of their UN Ocean Decade, and it's for early career ocean professionals, which is one of their programs, specifically in the Caribbean. And well, they received their funding from a Norwegian company, and EcoVybz and SOA Caribbean is facilitating this workshop. And I am a regional rep for SOA Caribbean, as would have been mentioned, but I'm also the founder of EcoVybz Environmental Creative. So yeah, moving smartly along. So the program is essentially to give you guys the tools to be not just like ocean or climate leaders, but to be leaders in general, and for us to examine some of the problems taking place in the Caribbean as it relates to the ocean, as well as the climate, and develop solutions or have discussions around it on where you would see themselves and where we see ourselves going within that space as well. And it's supposed to be a safe space for you guys to share. So please feel free if you have any, questions, or somebody saying something that you're in agreement with or not so much in agreement with, please feel free to jump in and, share your opinion, your thoughts, etc. But please do so respectfully. I don't want our speakers to not come back for anything that we have in the future. So yeah. Is there anything else? Well, yeah, explore evidence-based solutions and just really dive into, like I said, what it means to be a leader and stuff in general, to be innovative and to develop your own projects in the future or initiatives that you may have targeted towards the ocean, the climate, the environment, tackling plastic pollution, whatever it may be. And so the sessions, we have 5 sessions in all. Well, 5 sessions that have content in all. So we have the storytelling session, which starts tomorrow, and that will be storytelling for ocean action. I'm very excited for that because that's the work that I do, storytelling. We have ocean innovation, marine degradation, marine opportunities, and ocean leadership. And well, today we would have the opening, and on next week, Tuesday, we would have the closing where you guys will be presented with your certificates and etc. And well, we had the opening today, so no need to go through this slide. Like I said, tomorrow will be the storytelling session that I am extremely excited for. And we're going to discuss like what are stories and how you could use them to create impact, and the art of storytelling, and how you can develop a campaign, whether it be a social media campaign or physical campaign on the street, the different types of activism, things like documentaries, using photos to make impact and stuff like that. And I will be presenting on that. And we have Rom and Noah, who are the founders of Pendulum, and they are a storytelling organization based in Israel. They do absolutely amazing work. So if you want, you can check them out beforehand so that you have an idea of who they are and like what kind of work they've done. And we also have a National Geographic storyteller, Tara Roberts. Unfortunately, she would not be present, but I was able to interview her because she did want to contribute, and she has interviews left, right, and center. She has interviews left, right, and center, so she could not commit the time tomorrow, but I was able to record her session and I would share it with you guys. But essentially, she and a group of Black scuba divers have been exploring the Atlantic slave trade in search of abandoned slave ships and shipwrecks, and they've put out a podcast series and a documentary highlighting like what they found, what that was about, and just like the untold stories that lie under the ocean of slavery. So I found that was very interesting and relevant to the Caribbean because that's part of our history, even though she's from the US. So yeah. And Wednesday, we have the session. Oh my God, sorry, I think I need to sneeze. Okay, disappeared. So on Wednesday, we have the session, marine pollution, and we're gonna look at coral reef degradation, hopefully seabed mining, shark conservation, and then we're gonna talk about some of the solutions that we could come up with, or probably some ideas. And the speakers will be Christopher Corbin, who is the officer in charge at the UNEP office in the Caribbean, which is based in Jamaica. We have Anjani Denise. She's a coral reef ecologist. She works at the Institute of Marine Affairs, as well as a director at Species, local NGO. We have Dr. Diva Amon. I am praying to God that she shows up, that she committed to showing up, but she's extremely busy. So I'm just really praying that she shows up. She just released a paper on seabed mining, and she did a documentary with Welcome to Earth, I believe is the name of it, on Disney Plus, well, National Geographic for Disney Plus, with Will Smith exploring the deep ocean in the Caribbean as well as some other areas. So that's very exciting from her. And then we also have Tadzio Bovutz. He is the director of DCNA and founder of the Caribbean Shark Coalition. He's working in the Dutch Caribbean. God, I'm trying to remember the island. So I say Dutch Caribbean and Martinique comes to mind, and I know that's French. I'm going blank. Bonaire, right? He is in Bonaire right now. So yeah, that should be interesting from him as well, especially the shark stuff. And those of you from Trinidad know that one of the things we love to eat is bacon shark. So we would hear about that and why we probably should not be eating it as much, but yeah. And after we have the Marine Opportunities session, March 17th. So we would hit the career paths in the Caribbean, as well as like what areas you could study and stuff like that at UTT. I tried really hard to get someone from UE, but let's not go there. If you have experience with UE, you know why, that it was very hard to get them to come to speak. So yeah, and then we will touch on innovation and technology as well, and the global opportunities and internships within the marine science and climate change space. And we will hear from Dr. Ria Guppy. She's a lecturer at UTT. And Emily McClone, I would have mentioned the Peace Boat. Brandon would have also mentioned the Peace Boat, that Japanese NGO that sailed, and they sailed for the SDGs. And so she would be speaking on behalf of them and the opportunities that they have at Peace Boat. And Natalia, who is a Peace Boat Ocean and Climate Ambassador, she would have sailed when I sail, and she's going to talk about that program specifically and like what you could get out of it if you join. And then we have Emily Tuiz. She's the Science and Policy Consultant at SOA, and she's going to be talking more about, like I said, the microgrants, how much, what goes into applying for a microgrant, what kind of projects they fund, the accelerator program, the opportunities they have for us to like attend conferences and stuff like that. So we would hear about that because there's a conference coming up in Portugal, and they're going to put out a call to have people attend, fully sponsored. So she's going to talk about that. And then we also have Fabian Cousteau, founder of the Proteus Ocean Group. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of this man before, but it's a pretty big deal that we have him coming. So I'm very excited. His grandfather would have been the person that invented scuba gear and diving and that whole field that a lot of people love to do today. His grandfather is responsible for all of that. And he is forming some marine underwater labs. That's a bit controversial and interesting at the same time. So I think it would be great for us to hear what he has to say as it relates to that and how you all feel about it and stuff. But like, yeah, he's doing absolutely amazing work in that field and like exploring and science, because his whole thing is that we know more about space than we know about the ocean, and the ocean is literally at our fingertips, and that needs to change. So that's what he is working on. So that would be good. And then next week we will have, no, this is Friday. March 18th is a Friday. Yes? I think so. I don't know where we are in the days, but let's just go with March 18th. It's a Friday. I could be wrong, but yeah, so that day we will talk about conceptualizing projects, whatever stuff that you guys may be working on, or any ideas that you have in your mind, and how to form that into a solid project, and how to go from like idea to execution, and what that whole process is like, and then managing the project and making sure that you execute it well. And for that session, we were here, Brandon would have mentioned someone from the accelerator program, and that's Coral Vita. We would hear from them. They recently won a huge award. Can't remember the name of the award. Sweelan, if you're in the chat, I know that you love them. So please feel free to mention the name of the award that they won. And you could also look them up. And we would have Federique. She is the Federique, the founder of Roots of the Sea Caribbean, and she is from Martinique, and they do work on mangroves, and those two are going to talk about their projects, as well as Katrina Khan, the founder of Mutrina. She has a lovely book going around, and those three are going to talk about their projects and their work, and like what went into that and what challenges they face and like how they overcome it. And then we have one of the SOA Global mentors, Dennis Oakley, and he is literally going to walk you guys through that project idea to execution process and giving you guys examples. And that session is meant to be very interactive. So from now, if you don't have an idea, you could probably just like brainstorm anything that pop into your head, so that you have, or some of you I know have stuff going on already. So you could prepare questions for him and stuff like that to know how to move forward with whatever it is that you're working on, and he's going to help with that. And then Monday, yes, so March 18th was a Friday. So Monday, we're going to look at the types of leadership, the leadership tools, avoiding burnout, conscious leadership, and building a community. I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, burnout is one of the biggest challenges that I have, as well as feeling extremely overwhelmed in this field, or just not knowing what is my purpose or what I'm doing and where I'm going next. I would start a project, and then halfway through, I would have a panic attack because I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if it's going to end. I don't know why I signed up for this. It's overwhelming, etc. So they're going to talk about how to deal with that. So we have Andrew Musk, next one of the SOA Global mentors. We have John Letts, and he is basically the tech person for SOA, but as well as he focuses on building communities. So any of you interested in like forming your own hubs or forming your own organizations, whether it be a group, etc., he's going to walk you through what that should entail and could look like. And then Eugenia, our next regional rep, but she's been doing this for years, and like what it took for her to build her community within Europe, as well as the Portuguese speaking countries, and what challenges they face and how they overcome them, etc. And then the 22nd is when we have the closing. Hopefully we have Daniela present. She is the founder of SOA, and she's like 27 or 28, and she started SOA at like 24. I don't even know how. I'm currently 29 and I couldn't decide what to put on this morning. So she's amazing. And then Emily would be presenting you guys with certificates, and then closing remarks from me. This might be a little underwhelming, but nonetheless, I'll still share and stuff, and we'll probably play some games, etc., take some photos, do some stuff. So yeah, and this is just an overview of all the speakers and like what they look like. You'll see myself, Brandon, we heard from him. That's the guy from Coral Vita, Dr. Diva Amon, etc., Fabian. You get the point. These are the speakers, right? So any questions? Feel free to unmute and ask questions if you've got any questions. No questions? Everybody good? Okay. In terms of if you miss a session, the sessions will be recorded and they would be shared with you guys, and you would be able to review it and probably answer like 3 or 4 questions on the stuff that you was presented that day, just to know that for sure that you guys watched it, so that you'll be able to get the certificate at the end of the program. I know 1 or 2 of you applied for internet grants. That money is on its way soon enough. And I see in the chat that Joshua also included the attendance form, so feel free to fill that out. So I know that you guys are here today, and we'll be dropping attendance form in each one. And yeah, tomorrow's session starts at 9. And next slide. Oh, but we just did the break. So no break now anymore. So we will go jump straight into like meet the team. So I will go first. I kind of already presented, but my name is Khadija, 29 years old, from Trinidad and Tobago. Founder of EcoVybz Environmental Creative, a storytelling and environmental content creation company, as well as the regional rep for SOA. And Sweelan, feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good day, everybody. I'm Sweelan Reno. I'm also from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm SOA Caribbean's Communication and Social Media Manager, and I'm also a project intern with EcoVybz Environmental Creatives. Happy that you guys are all here. Hope you guys are excited. We have so much in store. And with that, I'll pass you over to Joshua.
Hi guys, I'm Joshua. I am a member of, executive member of the team. I do research and development. I'm also a member of ENAP Media Portrayal and Youth, specifically the environmental law. I'm also a member of the Stockholm Plus 50 Youth Task Force, and I have a very long-standing passion for the ocean and sustainability. So yeah, nice to meet all of you. Thanks for coming.